Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Well, the 20-year-old man killed in a vehicle crash Tuesday night is being remembered by the hockey community. We speak with Sylvain, Lazard's former coach, plus a retired nurse is pushing for the new RSV vaccine to be free for all seniors. And the Windsor International Film Festival is finally here. We give you a sneak peek at what you can expect. Tonight, the local hockey community is remembering Sylvain Lazard, the 20-year-old Windsor man who was killed in a vehicle crash in Lakeshore on Tuesday. His former coach said he was coming home from practice when he collided with a transport truck on County Road 42. Up until 10 days ago, Lazard had been playing hockey with the Wheatley Sharks. Last night, the Sharks had a game against the Amherstburg Admirals, where the two teams paid tribute to someone who coaches say was a great teammate and overall person.
Great from the get-go. He was instant life of the party, I guess you could say. He brought a different type of energy to the room, one that was kind of needed at the time. Just always compete. You know, he was always driven to be the best that he could be and to try and, you know, drag his teammates into the fight night in and night out. No matter, you know, what the score of the game was, whether we were up by a lot or down by a lot, he was always trying to drive the group. They made the decision that they wanted to play last night. They wanted to do it for him. And we had a nice pre-game ceremony in his honor. We had both teams go to center ice, take a knee for a moment of silence. We brought his jersey out to center ice and kind of laid it on the center ice dot, and then had a moment of silence for him. And then after that, we had his jersey hung up behind our bench, and both teams stood in front of our bench looking up at his jersey and just kind of gave him one last salute. Probably the most emotional hockey game I've ever been a part of. And most of the guys also, on behalf of myself and the organization, just want to, you know, send our condolences to the Lazard family. You know, I reached out to his dad yesterday and spoke to his dad, and probably the hardest phone call I've ever had to make in my life. But I mean, there's no words that can, you know, bring any sort of peace to the situation.
A Windsor woman is calling on the provincial government to fund RSV vaccines for people over the age of 60. Currently, only seniors in communal living situations like nursing homes are covered. And she started a petition in hopes to see a change. The CBC's Dale Molnar has more.
RSV is a respiratory disease that can prove fatal to high-risk individuals such as seniors. Currently, the province is offering the vaccine free of charge in nursing homes and other congregate settings, but anyone outside a long-term care home has to pay, and pay big, up to $300. And private insurers aren't covering it either. Stephanie Champ is a retired registered practical nurse. She also has an autoimmune disease. She has begun an online petition to get the province to cover the cost or at least heavily subsidize it.
I want to see it readily available for seniors, not at an enormous cost, so every senior would be able to afford that. I'm just appalled because I think we haven't learned anything from the COVID virus. If seniors get really ill with this, they're going to overwhelm the hospitals once again. So the idea is to keep seniors safe and keep them healthy.
Champ has the support of the Windsor Health Coalition, which says funding the vaccine is cheaper than funding the cost of hospitalization.
This is another example of the Ministry of Health in this province standing in between people and their doctors. If their doctor prescribes this vaccine, that it will help you, you should be able to get that vaccine.
A provincial health ministry spokesperson says Ontario is one of the few provinces funding the vaccine in nursing homes. She says they are concentrating on those seniors because it's a matter of availability. There is a limited supply of Arexvy, so the initial scope is to target those in settings with individuals at the highest risk of health severe outcomes and transmissions. And she says if there are other vaccines approved in the future, they will review the rollout of them. Meanwhile, Champ has more than 15,000 signatures on her petition from people all across Canada. She believes the vaccine should also be available to everyone.
With this economy, it's very hard for a lot of people to make ends meet.
Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor's new deputy police chief says he's proud and humbled to fill the position. Jason Crowley has been in the role since 2022. The police board hired him permanently earlier this month.
Well, I think, service delivery is what we produce. And so I always looking to improve service delivery, improve our relationships, our partnerships. And of course, those kind of things are what help the downtown, help the mental health response, help the addiction response, the homelessness. So these are the things that certainly that's on my priority list for sure.
Crowley has been with the service for 30 years. Earlier this year, he pled guilty to a speeding fine after being charged with stunt driving. He said he was not able to comment on the situation because it's still under external review.
I can understand that you're very interested and people are very interested in it. Unfortunately, I can't really speak of it yet. Ontario, the CBC still has it. They have not got back to us on their results. So I'm sure there'll be a day we'll be able to talk about it. But as of right now, I certainly can't comment. So.
City staff are looking at what it would take to limit train noises in South Walkerville. Neighbors have complained to council about increased train traffic creating loud noises. Essex Terminal Railway says the whistles and horns are mandated for safety. They're used at crossings between Walker and Langlois where there's no safety infrastructure present. The city can apply to have the trains stop using whistles and horns if upgrades are made. These crossings would need mechanical gates, horns, and warning lights. Staff says that could cost between $2 and $3 million. They're getting an application ready for a federal program that would cover 80% of the cost, as expected to open next year, but they'll need council's direction to move forward with the application. That has not been approved at this time. A council committee says a new bylaw to prevent people from panhandling in certain parts of the city is not needed. Staff put together a report for council to review on the request of Councillor Fred Francis. That report looked at how many charges have been laid under the Ontario Safe Streets Act. It's the act officers can use to charge aggressive panhandlers. Police across Windsor, Essex laid 199 charges under the act between 2019 and 2022. Just 10 of those fines were paid by the person charged. And 40% of those charges, they were against the same 4 repeat offenders. Council will now be asked to review a plan put forward by downtown councillor Ronaldo Agostino. His request is that police be more proactive in how they address people acting unsafe on street corners and medians. Agostino also wants staff to look at ways to make streets safer for pedestrians.
When we say we can't police ourselves out of situations, I think when people refer to that, I think what they refer to is whether it's laying charges or whether it's putting people in jail. That's what people mean when they say they can't police themselves. We can't police ourselves out of the situation. None of my motion directs anyone towards doing any of that. But a police officer who sees someone in danger needs to help that person. Now, we know that there's many, many ways of helping those people. But that's what I mean by police following the Safe Streets Act. That by no means should a police officer charge someone for panhandling. But panhandling to me isn't the issue. Safety is the issue here.
Today is the day the Windsor International Film Festival has officially begun. For 11 days and nights, WIFF will hold more than 300 screenings in downtown Windsor. The CBC's Dalton Chen met with the executive director to chat about some of his personal picks from the many, many choices.
Happy WIFF, Vincent.
Dawson, it's great to see you. Happy WIFF.
What is your favorite thing about this atmosphere, this time of year?
It is the excitement of all of it actually coming together. It's getting our audience here. It's getting our filmmaking guests here. It's getting the films up on screen.
What are you personally excited about?
One I want to highlight for sure is the opening night film, The Pot au Feu. It stars Juliette Binoche. This wonderful love story that's all told through French cooking and French cuisine.
Zone of Interest, directed by Jonathan Glazer. Zone of interest is about a concentration camp, Auschwitz, and specifically the commandant, Rudolf Höss. The concentration camp is not the focus. It is Hess's household, located nearby Auschwitz.
I would point to a terrific film called The Peasants. This is our centerpiece screening. They oil paint all of the stills and make the film almost animated. They employed hundreds and hundreds of artists to work on that film because the labor involved is absolutely astronomical. The literal art on the screen. It's a real wow of a film.
Robot Dreams, animated by the director Pablo Berger. It's about an anthropomorphic cartoon dog. Yep. 1980s New York City. And he's a nice guy, but he's got a lonely life, so he orders a robot friend.
I want to recommend Depraved Mind. It's a terrific new psychological thriller directed by Nick Shields of Windsor. It's very entertaining. It's also disturbing. I don't want to give too many spoilers away. You just know something's off.
Skinamarink, it's called. Yes. It's a micro-budget experimental horror movie. The entire film takes place inside a house, and the only actors are children. There is no real narrative arc to it. These are kids in a darkened house with only the static of a television set to keep them company.
I want to recommend Anatomy of a Fall. This is a terrific courtroom drama. Did this woman throw her husband off the 3rd floor of their cottage?
It's a mystery?
Yeah, it's a mystery. I don't know that the film cares about who did it. I think it's more about peeling back the layers of what was going on in the household.
I'm Just Here for the Riot is a Canadian film. It's a Canadian-made documentary. The 2011 Canucks riot. In Vancouver, Game 7, the Canucks lose, and their fans riot. They go crazy. There's millions of dollars worth of property damage. There's mass looting, and it was documented.
I want to recommend our closing film, 299 Queen Street West. It is the Much Music documentary. Not only is the filmmaker Sean Menard coming, but we have many of your favorite VJs coming as well. It's all done through the footage, and you understand the incredible cultural impact Much Music had on all of us.
I'm probably betraying my geekness. It's the Lord of the Rings marathon.
Love it.
You guys are screening all 3 of the original films, Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. I watched them over and over again.
Watching those films in the big theaters, it's an unforgettable experience, and they are operatic and they're emotional.
So there you have it, folks, our recommendations for this year's festival, October 26th to November 5th. Take part in the magic. Don't miss it. We'll see you at the movies.
Well, it's been 5 days since nearly 360 St. Lawrence Seaway employees have been on strike. That means roughly 100 vessels containing cargo are held up along the shipping artery between Lake Erie and Montreal. That includes cargo destined for the Port of Windsor. Those who rely on the channel say millions of dollars in grain exports are at stake and are calling on the federal government to intervene. Nicole Williams has the details.
These trucks are bringing in thousands of tons of soybeans from local farmers, but there's no ship to pick them up.
When those vessels stop, eventually the system will back up.
That means tens of millions of dollars of revenue for producers could be out the window.
Well, the farmers have made all their investment. They've done their fertilizer, they've done their planting, now they've reaped their harvest, but they don't get paid until they're able to sell that to a broker.
One day stronger, one day longer.
Hundreds of St. Lawrence Seaway workers walked off the job over the weekend after talks with management broke down. The sticking points, wage and working conditions. Already about 100 ships between Montreal and St. Catharines have been halted.
The reality is that this employer has not been willing to make a serious offer at the table. And until we get to that point, we're going to have a dispute.
Both parties are expected back at the bargaining table Friday. Canada's Minister of Labour says he doesn't plan to interfere in negotiations, but is keen to see a resolution.
Well, we just keep talking to our American counterparts. They are obviously very concerned and have a lot at stake here, as do a lot of members of this caucus around Great Lakes communities.
But those who rely on the St. Lawrence to run smoothly say Canada can't risk a strike lasting for much longer.
Canada needs to show that it can be competitive in the global market, and that requires reliability.
For now, the clock keeps ticking, with producers, port workers, and businesses all anxiously waiting for a deal they say needs to be made as quickly as possible. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Johnstown, Ontario.
A 6-week auto worker strike against Ford in the United States may be ending. The United Auto Workers Union says it has a tentative agreement. The deal reportedly includes a 25% pay increase over the length of the contract. It will now be up to local UAW leaders to decide whether to send the agreement to the 57,000 Ford workers for a vote. The other two members of the Detroit 3, GM and Stellantis, are also in talks with the union. President of the union representing workers at the Ford engine plant here in Windsor says the news is a win-win for workers here. Just yesterday, he was warning that the U.S. strike could lead to a shutdown on this side of the border. Now he says if the deal is ratified by workers, production at Windsor's plant will go on. Lots of eyes here in Windsor on bargaining that has begun between Unifor and Stellantis. National President Lana Payne says there are still Stellantis-specific issues to deal with. Things such as protections against outsourcing at parts distribution centers and bargaining rights for the Nexstar EV battery plant. The union has set the deadline for Sunday at midnight. Well, it may not look like it out there, but we were in the 20s once again today. You'll want to stay tuned for the weather forecast coming up because tomorrow may be the warmest day all week. Colette, last night you asked me to report back about my scare house experience.
Yes.
Well, this clip of myself and our afternoon drive colleague Josiah, it basically sums it up.
Okay, let's see it.
No. Colette, I must admit, this was before we even went into the scare house.
So what is happening then that you're that scared before you're even inside?
There were chainsaws and there was a clown. And at this point, I just started sweating. If you're in for a good scare, I would recommend. And if not, don't go.
And what I can't help but notice there, Meg, is you were terrified, clearly, but then it ended with a laugh. You laughed at yourself, and that's exactly what our person was saying yesterday with all their scary things that they put up around their house. So,
you are right. You are right.
So
and actually, there's more scares and more laughs coming up. This is just a sneak peek. Tomorrow night, we're going to air the full piece.
Love it. We'll look forward to that. I'm sure many folks too are looking forward to another day with some beautiful conditions, perhaps record-setting. I mean, it was mild enough today. We'll take that, but more to come. Also some more rain to come, but let's take it one step at a time, okay? So 21 degrees, the current temperature. Chatham-Kent at 19, Sarnia at 20. I know the winds at times have been strong. We had some of those gusts up towards 50 kilometers an hour from the southwest, but that's also what's pulling in the mild air. And if we look at the gusts now, there's several areas where you're not seeing a number, and the reason for that is that the winds aren't over 30 kilometers an hour, so nothing reported in terms of the gusts there. But this is our very broad system. So we had the warm front that went through. We'll have some showers kind of in between. And then lingering behind this, well behind this, is the cold front, which is eventually going to have to go through and bring our temperatures down. Behind it, there's significant snow. I'm not anticipating this, but there'll be parts of, say, cottage country that will likely see some flurries when we get into some of those cooler nights. So we get a bit of a break here. And then what we'll find is a little bit later on this evening and overnight, we'll see some of these showers needing to roll on through. They weaken somewhat, however. And once that moves through, all right, there it goes. Few pockets where locally there could be some heavier stuff. But then tomorrow we will see some at least partial clearing, right? And once that happens and we get into the sun, that's when we're going to find our temperature soaring. Again, kind of breezy at times. And then it's behind that. So this is Friday night into Saturday. Localized, a few thunderstorms even possible. And behind that is the colder air. And that's when the temperatures really come down. So tomorrow, not so much maybe the morning when it's going to be wet, but not a whole lot to this other than locally, again, where there could be pockets of thunderstorms tomorrow night. The more significant stuff is around Georgian Bay and into northeastern Ontario. So very mild readings overnight tonight with the cloud cover and those scattered showers that will be pushing through. And then we break out of it tomorrow afternoon. The record is 24. I'm forecasting us to 24, so we'll at least flirt with that if we don't break it. Breezy, yes. The rain overnight Friday to Saturday, then we break out of that. But I'm sure you have to notice as we play this out, Halloween. That's kind of scary too. Hopefully we'll be laughing about it, but costumes will need some modification for the coolness.
Well, we'll have to see about a potential record tomorrow. Thanks so much for that, Colette.
Yeah, you're welcome, Meg.
Japan is known for its futuristic living. Coming up, we tell you about an auto show that is out of this world. Inflation has hit just about everything. That includes Halloween treats. The CBC's Belle Puri has the story.
Ghouls and goblins paved the way to a chamber of treats.
This is my candy stash. I am very pleased to show everybody. We've got 1,350 large-size bars. It's $1,000 in candy.
The cost of Halloween this year is turning heads.
The prices have gone crazy. They really, really, truly have.
So how much more can you expect to spend on candy this year? Consider this popular pack of treats. Last year, a 50-count box sold for between $6.49 and $7.99. This year, on sale, prices have hit $9.99. That's higher than inflation.
I think like anything with inflation, it never goes up consistently. The only thing I would say, it really depends on the day you're shopping.
As for why prices are up, Loblaw says the reason is because sugar and cocoa prices are at all-time highs. Metro in Ontario and Quebec refuse to comment.
The price of a box of candy may scare you, but apparently not enough to spook us out of actually buying it.
Retail analysts estimate the average household spends $25 to $40 annually on Halloween candy.
I think there are parts of Halloween that are recession-proof, and those are going to be for the little kids, the trick-or-treating. I don't think they're going to break the bank.
In anticipation of a banner year, some retailers have more inventory than last year.
It looks like it's going to be the biggest year we've had in the last 5 years.
Despite the sticker shock, shoppers don't seem to be dissuaded.
We just decide to bite the bullet and spend a little bit more.
Statistics Canada estimates 4.2 million Canadian children are in the prime trick-or-treating age of 5 to 14. They know exactly what they want.
Like a whole bunch of candy.
And that could be pricey. Belle Puri, CBC News, Vancouver.
It's a Halloween display out of some people's wildest dreams. Yes, that's a pumpkin painted to look like Taylor Swift. Taylor Swiftkin weighs about 180 kilograms. That's 399 pounds. Her hair is made from over 9 wigs. Her ears are sweet potatoes. And she even has a little football dedicated to new boyfriend Travis Kelce. The Ohio artist behind Taylor Swiftkin has been creating a celebrity pumpkin for 35 years. A breast cancer survivor, she uses the pumpkins to spread the word that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Here's an early peek at the futuristic vehicles on display at a big auto show in Tokyo. Hundreds of car makers have gathered this year to show off new concepts and designs that is a drone that you can pilot from the inside. But flying may not be everyone's idea of a good daily commute. And if you live or work near waterfront, like we do here in Windsor, this company has a drone that glides over the waves. The Japan Mobility Show, as it's called, will be open to the general public starting this weekend. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.